folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. Tonight we got a great show for you. As always, I'm promising you that you got to stick around for this one because we got some great guests tonight. We got my co-host Lucky Stone, Nina the Mystic, and Trina Pheonix tonight. Boy, we got a lot to talk about dreams. So now I'm going to just give a little a highlight of what's going on with dreams and what are we talking about in the beginning. And this is what it boils down to. Dreams. Did you dream of that nice big house and the family? You know, did you spoil yourself thinking about that your whole entire life, expecting to get it? Is that what you're working for? Getting that nice new car? Is that your dream? Have you been having that on your wish list? You sit around and think about that every night. Or was it that sports car when you were a kid you put up on your wall and hoped that someday you too could be driving that around? Maybe you were the one that said, I'm going to travel the world. I'm going to have this dream of traveling the world and seeing all those fancy places as you page through a history book when you were a child. Getting on that plane, off into the sunset you go. Or maybe it was being on a boat, sailing around the world, seeing new fancy islands in the Caribbean as you pretended that you were Jack Sparrow. Or Indiana Jones, traveling into the jungles, trying to find some ancient Mayan ruins, or who knows what. But traveling, sightseeing, going around the globe, what does this all mean? Was this your dream? Was it to be on that train, traveling across country, seeing the sights? Or boating? Could it be a boat? Is that something simple that you could do in your backyard? Whitewater rafting, the thrill and excitement of it all. Or maybe just hunting for that big elk or deer or whatever suits your fancy. Or maybe your dream is just to get a pat on the back, a job well done. Maybe having somebody say, you're just doing an awesome job. Or while you're sleeping, are you dreaming of different places and people? And what does your dream mean? Can you interpret your dream? Are you making your dream come true? Flying away on a carpet somewhere? Can dreams get crazy too? Are you chasing your dreams, never accomplishing them? Are you chasing them, fanciful dreams, never knowing what they mean? It's all about your perception, your intuition, your vision, your sight, your wisdom, your observation. Having all these different types of dreams, everything from ordinary to nightmares. And with all of that, now we have something really good to talk about.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
Well, you know, that's the thing. We've done shows on dreams before, but you know, it's the dream coming true. And you know, because I'm sure all of you had dreams about stuff. Trina, you wished for things and you got them. You know, I remember you telling me the story about the house. You know,
yeah, that was crazy.
And then there was, and I'm sure there's other things. When you got married, you know, Nina, I know you've been married several times there. You got married. Your dream was to have, no, it's just, I'm just saying, each time that happened, was it your dream to have a successful family and a great, wonderful relate? I mean, obviously there was something to it. You know, Trina, you too, and well, Lucky too, and not me. My dream was never to do that. Anyway,
yeah.
So like I said, when you're thinking about these things and you're trying to manifest and accomplish these dealies, you know, was that really your dream? Or did you try to live up to your dream? I think that's the biggest thing. You know, we have these when we're sleeping and we don't know how to determine them. What's the right course? What's the right path here? That's what I'm asking.
I don't know that there is a right path or a wrong path because you're learning all different things. But, it's interesting you said, was that your dream? Oh, I know what I wanted and I really did want that. And I really thought that was my dream. But come to find out, that was a misdirection in a material way and I could do it, but it didn't make me happy. It created actually more stress. And the change of environment produces a change of people. And I didn't see that as an upgrade either. So,
Mhm.
was it my dream? I don't think it was now, but I thought it was my dream. And I thought that based on what everybody told me success looked like.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. So were you actually following somebody else's dream?
I think I was. It took me a long time to realize that, but when I manifested everything they said would make you, you know, happy. Everybody would be happy. You'd be successful. Everything would be good. It would be, you're married, the 2.5 kids, the whole thing. I thought,
Mhm.
okay, I'll do that all and then I'll be happy. Well, it didn't work that way. It
Mhm.
just didn't work that way. On the outside, everything looked really good, but it wasn't what fulfills you. And all the things we've been taught that make us happy, literally, I've come to find out you only really truly seem to desire most of these things because they'll make other people see you in a positive way. And actually, we're all just wanting love, respect, and appreciation and feeling like we contribute somehow that's important
Mhm.
to the people you care about. You know what I mean? Because that seems to be the underlying motivator is I want to be this because you think it'll make the people around you think you're successful and happy and doing a good job. And it just doesn't work that way.
Yeah. No,
So I think we're done because that actually summed everything up.
I'm so sorry.
No, I know, but I mean, you put a good point on, but that was just what my little slideshow said too. Are you doing the thing just so you can get a job well done? Good job.
Yeah.
That what your dream became? Is that, well, I'm going to get this house, the 2.5 kids. I'm going to do all these things. Good job. Well done. That was your dream. It wasn't the house or the kids. It was the good job. That's what you were looking for.
Hmm. Yeah, I think that's you know what, I did a lot of research on that too, and through social work and sociology. They were finding a strong correlation. The happiest people in the world are the ones that feel important to their local immediate community, which is family. And these go back to more of tribal, because you live in communities. And this is where it takes a village to raise a child. It truly does. They're better off when they're raised by a tribe. You know what I mean? So we look at the way things have manifested to put us in all these little boxes separated from each other. We don't know our neighbors. We don't know people. It was done on purpose because it broke our foundations to even see what's really important to us in our reality. We think all these things are going to make us happy when it really doesn't. And when you were talking about, I read what you sent on the email and I was like, that's interesting. And then I thought about, what did I really dream about when I was a little kid before anybody else could tell me what to dream about? I always used to love to build houses out of the earth.
Hmm.
That was my favorite thing to do. Made me the greatest joy. And riding my dirt bike, playing with my pit bull. But yeah,
But yeah.
nature, playing and building stuff. That seemed to bring me the greatest joy.
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah. See, and then you gave that up to do other things and left that in the dirt. Literally.
No, I still want to build a house made out of clay. I want to build it with my own hands, and I probably will do that. So
Well,
I'm going back to my original ideas, and I
and
think that'll be fun.
see, and that's exactly it, fulfilling your dream. And now that we all get older, we
Mhm.
get wiser, and we realize that things have changed, and then we go back, and we start realizing that, like you just said, you were looking for the good job instead of all the, hey, I'm going to be happier because I fulfilled everything everybody told me to do.
Yeah.
So anyway, Nina, let's hear about you. I'm not going to say it twice. Teresa's in the house. Good to see you, Teresa. Anyway,
Yes.
Did you fulfill your dreams, or did they get sunk like a ship with a hole in it?
Yeah, as you guys are talking, I'm just thinking back. I'm like, my childhood was so dysfunctional that I never had any dreams. I never, it was survival day to day. I mean, I remember at
Mhm.
16, I was thinking, man, if I make it to 25, that's old. First of all, that's really old, right? And I had no aspiration of anything because it was just always in survival mode constantly. So, but yeah, getting married, having a family, that was definitely something that, I mean, is the only thing I thought that I could do, honestly. What else would I do? You know what I mean? Like, so, yeah, so I got married early on, and I had a brand new house, brand new car. I had the kids by the time I was 25. I had it all as far as, and anybody can tell, so I achieved all those goals right away. And so then I ended up leaving because I was bored. I already, no, that's done. Okay, check. Yeah, right. What's the next thing now? So then I went the whole single mom thing, went back to school 3 times, raised the boys on my own, did all of that too. And I was living on acreage, so I had the animals. I've done everything. Actually, I come to think of it, I've done pretty much anything that I could think of that I would want to do, to be honest. And now I'm retired early. I mean, how good is that? But yeah, I definitely wouldn't want to be sitting here now without having children and grandchildren. Like, that to me, yeah, I wouldn't even want to be here, I don't think, if I didn't have a family. That's definitely the most important thing to me. I mean, it doesn't matter how much money you have.
Mm-mm.
You can be living in a shoebox as long as you got your family there. That's what's important, as far as I'm concerned. And I mean, I chose, my dream is just to sit and study. That's what I've been doing for the last 10 years. Just researching, studying. I forgo social life. I forgo a lot of things in pursuit of the truth. So maybe that's my dream, is to figure out the truth. Like, what, and right now I'm kind of getting to the area of, are we in a simulation? Maybe there's a whole lot more to this whole matrix simulation thing than I think that we realize. And that's kind of where my mind's going now. But yeah, I guess that is my biggest dream. Figuring out the truth, figure out where we come from, why we're here and where we're going, I guess is, so yeah.
Nice. Well, but see, that's the thing. You figured out your truth or your dream, later on in life. I think is when you're young. None of us know what we're doing. We're just out there trying to get from one day to the next. That's the whole thing. Lucky, you got anything to comment on that?
No, life is basically, if you're not happy where you are, you'll never be happy with whatever everyone tells you to make you happy. That's the problem. And I took me, my 20s, I didn't know that. I got married because it was the thing to do. My family wanted me to get married and find the right person. And I thought I found the right person, but she wasn't, because she was doing exactly what she was supposed to do. And eventually she went crazy, and we basically decided, you know what? It came down to, she was doing what she needed to do. And I said, what do you want? And she says, I don't know. And I said, do you still want me? And she said, I don't know. And I'm like, you know what? That actually is the answer I've been looking for. this is over, and it ended it. And she was like, what? No. I didn't say that I wanted to divorce. I didn't say. And I said, if you don't know, there's nothing more to grow on that. If you don't know, you have to be sure. And and she was a perfect little daughter, did everything she was supposed to do, but eventually she got into other things and decided to go a different direction. And I decided that isn't my way. And then after the divorce, I went crazy. And I was in my 20s to 30s. I was living the dream. I was single, having fun, doing whatever I want, traveling, doing everything, working a good job. I was unstoppable. And then my wife trapped me, and then I got married and had a kid. You know?
She loves hearing that.
Well, the funniest part is that my wife and I worked at the same company, and I was training her. And I finally, you're trained well enough, go on your way. And she kept coming and asking me more questions. And I was in just a goofy mood, and I looked at her and said, you know what? I know you like spending time with me, but I'm just not attracted to Asians. And she got so mad at me, she decided I'm going to date him just to prove him that he can. It was the weirdest thing. And honestly, and that's when she learned, because she said when the first time she ever saw me, I was glowing white. She'd never seen someone so white. And, so that's the reason why we got married, is because my wife thought I was a magic being, and she decided that if he doesn't like Asians, I'm going to make him date me. So, but that's the story. I was living the dream because I was happy with who I was, and I had no obligations. I mean, I was traveling to Canada, and I had girlfriends in Canada, but of course that couldn't be permanent because they're in Canada. I'm in, northern United States. And it was an 8-hour trip to even hang out with them. So it was basically just a casual thing, and I was having fun. I was learning my French and speaking the French, and I thought for sure that I was basically bringing a French Canadian girl down to America, or I'd move up to Canada. I was convinced that was going to be my future. And then I meet a Southeast Asian woman who, decided that this is what's going to happen, and I fell for it. That's just how it is. That's once you're happy with yourself, then things will fall into your lap. You can't say this will make me happy. Money will make me happy. Car will make me happy. A new house will make me. A new house, forget it. Yeah, a car, a new house, they'll break down. For me, an old car and an old house, what you're going for. But the truth is, you've got to be happy with who you are before you can, live in the dream. You got living the dream is everyone else's dream get pushed onto you, and that's what my life was. Living the dream is basically what makes me happy right now, and I'm going to do that.
Nice. Yeah. Well, the thing is, okay, so let's move on from our dreams that we thought we liked and wanted to have, and then we move on to other things. But we've talked about dreams before, and then there's different types of dreams. There's your ordinary dream, your lucid dream, your reoccurring dreams, which don't happen that much, but there's usually something behind that. There's a how do you pronounce No. I'm thinking when you see the future dreams, premonition dreams, yes. And then of course we have nightmares, but most people don't know how to interpret a dream. They just say, "Oh my God, I've seen I was being chased." Here's an example. I wrote down something really stupid. Okay, last night I had, and this ain't my dream. Last night I had a strangest dream. I sailed to China on a little rowboat to find whoever, and you said you had to get your laundry clean. I didn't know what. I just didn't want anybody to hold on to you, and I don't know what that means. You see how crazy dreams can be? China, and then but
That's
then how do you interpret that?
It's a song.
A what?
Yeah, I took a little rowboat to China to find you. Nobody's gonna break my stride. Nobody's gonna slow me down. Oh no, I've got to keep on moving. Ain't nothing gonna break my stride. That's what that song is. That's literally you were saying the lyrics of the beginning of the song. That's weird. Yeah.
Okay. Well, there you go. It just came to
Well,
me.
Well, and the title is "Ain't Nothing Gonna Break My Stride." Nobody's gonna slow me down. He fell in love with somebody, and she broke his heart. And he was like, "Anytime I see somebody like you, I'm gonna just say, ain't nothing gonna break my stride," and I'm out the door. You know what I mean? So there could be something there for that. I don't know.
That's not what I'm saying. That's not what I'm
There
saying.
you go.
But yeah, so
Well,
to me, this is your subconscious. You're mulling over stuff that you've heard on the internet. And China's big right now. We're all worried about China, right? And anything to do with water, ocean, water in a little boat, it's all emotional stuff. That's coming up. So you're navigating your emotions here towards information about China, and you're trying to hold on because we know now that if the ships don't come in from China anymore, we're not going to be able to get all these clothes that you're talking about. So you want to hold on to these clothes. Ooh, China is going to be taking away that for a little while. And so that's what I'm hearing or seeing with this stream.
But see, this is exactly it. I guess you proved my point. Was I picking something out of the ether? Some song I heard a long time ago, or was I, being thinking about something else when I wrote that stuff down? I don't know, but you see what I mean? And then everybody can interpret your dream or your thoughts, whatever way they want. And is this some future? Was it a future event? Was I just lucid dreaming? Was this just an ordinary dream? Was it, kind of thing? Or was it like you said, I'm going to be worried about something? Was it a nightmare, in reality time? So, like I said, there's lots of different things that can happen. And I think a lot of people just don't know how to interpret that. And, they look to others to interpret their dreams. Wasn't it that famous guy? Who was that? It was a Bible guy with the Lucky, you'll know this one.
Yeah, I will.
Who was the Bible guy who got Nebuchadnezzar or the statue with the stone feet and the clay feet and the bronze and the statue, the guy with the statue.
Yeah, to interpret King Solomon's dream.
That's it. That's the one. The guy had to interpret
what was his name? He interpreted the dreams of King Solomon, and nobody else could do it, I think.
Yeah, I can't remember. Just saw it on top of my head here.
And they had the dream was Nebuchadnezzar, and he dreamed of the big statue, and he wanted him to interpret what the dream meant, and he was the only one that could interpret it properly.
Yeah, I
can't remember his name either. I'm drawing a blank. I'm like, I can't remember.
I'm thinking, was it Daniel? No, it wasn't Daniel.
No, Daniel worked for the Egyptians.
Yeah, like I said, I ain't gonna guess because I
don't know the story about the feet, the gold feet and the stone feet.
It's a statue, and it goes through the ages: the bronze, the gold, the silver, and then the clay, the clay and whatever is at the feet.
That's the one I'm thinking of.
Mixed to iron and clay at the feet. The feet were iron and clay. And and everything represented an age, like the industrial age, Aquarian age. These were all ages. Yeah.
Yeah. And then, of course, we're coming into Elijah.
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 It might be. That could be. Yeah, that could be. Elijah interpreted the dream.
I got to pay more attention to my chat because they know stuff.
It was Elijah. It is Elijah. You're right.
There you go. There you go. I'm like Elijah. That sounds right.
Up on that. But yeah.
I was gonna look up and like, no, it's Elijah. No, you're right.
Yeah. But see, that's the thing is who's interpreting the dream. The symbolism in the dream. We got. Did you know that most people, when they have symbolisms in dreams, they dream of it's either water. It's water. Some of this stuff really gets weird. Water. Flying, those are normal. Death, teeth falling out.
Yep.
I never had a dream where my teeth were falling out. Is this a thing?
I actually did have one of those, and I have a lot of my friends who have had those too.
Yeah, I have too, and that's
Mhm.
why I looked it up, so I know what that means now.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
God.
saying things you didn't want to say, wanting to put things back in your mouth, regretful about using your mouth wrong. Kind of. That's kind of, yeah, what my dream book says.
Really?
What I read was that it's about you feeling like you're out of control. It's like you can't control your teeth falling out. Like you're feeling like
Mm.
that kind of stuff. Like, oh, okay. Huh. Yeah. It's weird how our subconscious tries to mull over things that are going on, right?
Well,
You know?
the problem with dream interpretation, it's like a sentence. You have to, the word in a sentence, you need the whole sentence. The dream interpretation, you need the whole situation to know what that situation means. So dream interpretation means you got to write things down. And then from
Mhm.
there, grow from there. Okay, what is the most important thing here? And what does this mean to me? The book should only give you, honestly, dream interpretation only works, the book only works if you've read the book. Because for me, if let's just say there is a 25-foot, 6-inch wide snake in front of somebody, in my dream it'd be positive because I see snakes as positive and I have no
Mhm.
problem. For 99% of the population, it is a negative experience in that dream.
Mhm.
And I've had dreams about snakes, but they've been certain ways, and it's been gifts and it's been positive, and they've been talking, and that's something that other people wouldn't have. Now, if
Mhm.
my wife dreamed about a snake, it would be terror. It would be something bad coming. Um,
Mhm.
so dream interpretation is the dreamer, and the dreamer has to know, which is Rob is right. You have to know yourself, to know who you
Mhm.
are, to go from there. And the book
Mhm.
dream interpretation, once you read the book and know what those symbols mean, then they'll influence your dreams after that. But that's just my
I've
take.
noticed that too. I used to use a dream book a lot, and then my dreams would start to match the book, like so I could really start to understand it. And I think it was throwing things at me that my perception matched the definition. So like it was in alignment with my subconscious somehow. So
Hmm.
I saw that correlation too. That's really interesting that you did too. I love that.
Hmm, nice.
Mm.
So, and then
Cool.
speaking of that, it's all about science. Science tells us that the dreams are the brain's way of organizing memories, emotions, especially during the REM sleep. And if you didn't have the REM sleep, you can't give your brain a break to organize all that stuff, like putting it in, different files or things like that. And people don't, there's a lot of people out there today, unlike, 100 years ago, that don't get the proper amount of sleep, or they don't sleep at the right times. That their circadian rhythm is all wrong, things like that. It's really terrible.
Yeah,
You know,
I work nights and I sleep 5 hours a day, and yes, it is not healthy. And it means that weekends I sleep 12 hours sometimes. Yes, it's
Yeah.
unhealthy, and yeah, and my dreams are messed up as hell. But that's just part of the deal. If I didn't want to do the hours, I could leave. I guess it's one of those things where yes, you take responsibility for the life you live.
Hmm.
I can't be
yeah,
mad at the company for making me work those hours when I took the job. So
Mhm.
Hmm. Yeah.
yep,
Yeah. It's interesting. Like I said, the snake thing is kind of messing with me because y'all know about the dream I had about cutting myself out of a serpent. Well, my
yep.
whole life, I was raised in the desert and we had to really be careful for rattlesnakes because that was real. So, snake immediately means danger. One time we had snakes coming out from behind the TV set, baby rattlesnakes. That was a real joyride to have snakes in your house. But that dream that I had, with all of my fear I had of snakes, in my dream, I was talking to it and I didn't want to hurt it. And I was literally like touching it and like walked right up to it. And it was huge, like 30 feet long snake, its head bigger than my head, but I was no fear in the dream. I always wondered that too, because I was like, I was not afraid at all of that big snake.
that's something else entirely. But you know that.
Yeah.
That's a Kundalini awakening, right?
I don't know how Nina was talking about how she can see the matrix being a lot bigger than we kind of think it is. I think that's what that was telling me, was because the revelation through I received that dream as an answer to like some really deep questions I was having about religion and the matrix and the holographic universe. And, I was like, what if it's all just an illusion? Because you have all these beautiful, old, wise people, philosophers and theologists, and they're like, life is but a dream, albeit a persistent one, but there's so many references to that. You got Plato's cave. You've got all these very enlightened people back in the old days using language they had access to, all describing that life is just but a dream. So that always kind of was a deep, I wanted to know what that was all about, because I had a feeling that there was something happening in this reality that I didn't quite understand what it was. And I knew it was right in front of me, but I couldn't see it. So that was the question. And when I was like, okay, all of this is probably a holographic reality. All of this is a projection of my own mind connecting into a collective consciousness, having an experience, but this experience is not even me because this is just a borrowed body and a borrowed construct, but it's not my true identity. And when I started having that conversation, that's when I had the dream about cutting myself out of a serpent. And the message was, my child, you now have been set free from the watery grave of which you have slept. My child, you now are set free from the bondage of the serpent. And, also one of my questions before I had that vision dream in the morning was, is this like the Matrix? Are we all sleeping up in these pods, up in these spaceships? And, that was a real, I was like, I could see that as a real potential because I'd seen different stuff before about that, about me sleeping or standing in front of these consoles, like operating things. So I was like, what is all that about? So I had all these questions, and it's processing the subconscious, but it's kind of amazing how when you really do have serious, deep questions, if you have patience and you just wait, usually it shows you one way or another. And it'll do it through music, through TV, through interactions at the gas station, it'll just show up in a weird way. So, don't forget to ask if you have questions.
Well, here's a good one, and I don't know. I think Chloe's on that too, but Secret Truth too says, she said, "What does it mean when you're not having any dreams?" She can't remember them. But I think everybody's having the dreams. You just can't remember them.
I do that sometimes, and then I have to tell my body and I have to tell my soul, help me remember my dreams, and then I'll start remembering them again. But I have to remember to tell myself to remember. So I think that might be part of the interference programs on this planet is to keep you from your dreams. So I really do think it's a real challenge on a some type of an energetic level. And but if you intend to remember your dreams and you put a dream journal next to your bed, it's about the intention. Set that intention. And I've noticed every time I do that, I start having dreams again. It might take a few days though, so don't lose your patience. Be patient. Yeah.
Right. Now, since we are all these spiritual people here, we're doing higher than normal stuff. In spiritual traditions, we got, like you were talking about, the old timers, the ancestors, Plato, whoever, the shamans from way back. Now they did things to give themselves dreams, or, like taking peyote and drugs and whatever to get those dreams to come out, or just naturally sitting on a hill and fasting or something to bring those dreams about. And then most of these cultures deem that these dreams, they couldn't write them down, or maybe some of them did, but they believed them as to be, dreams of the future or something, and they believed that this was something sent to them, and it was real. And I know that they do that today. Have you had any experience with that, or want to speak about that?
You know what I was actually did not to change topic at all, but Brian just brought up, and I want you guys to help me with this so I don't forget it, lose it. And it's regarding dreams. I had a reoccurring dream when I was a child, and it was very strange. And it was over and over and over and over again. And what it was my house was a single story with a basement, but the house in my dream was a 2-story, which was weird. And it had street front with paved roads and stuff, like a neighborhood. We didn't have a neighborhood. I lived in the middle of the desert. So, my house was my house, but it wasn't my house type thing. But the bathroom was my bathroom. It was, dreams are weird like that. So I have this reoccurring dream, and I have it over and over and over again. And what it was I walked into the bathroom to go to the bathroom, and the toilet you would stare straight across at the bathtub. So I was going to the bathroom, and all of a sudden I had this feeling that somebody was in the bathtub, and the shower curtain, of course, was closed. So I walked up to the bathtub, and I opened up the shower curtain, and there was a dead guy in the bathtub, and he had drowned himself. But before he drowned himself, he poked his eyeballs out, and he set them very nice and neatly on the side of the bathtub.
Mm.
And there were policemen out in front of the house, and like somehow they knew he was there or whatever. And so I had that dream over and over and over, like when I was a child, and then it stopped. And I was watching Evolutionary Energy Arts, and he was talking about a famous psychic out of Poland or somewhere. I don't know, but somewhere distant where it has to be translated. And he was talking about a prophecy of the man with no eyes.
Oh.
And that's what I always said. I have a bad dream about the man with no eyes, or I'd have a bad dream about the man with no eyeballs. I would say that when I was a little kid over and over again. I had a bad dream again about the man with no eyes.
Mhm.
Yeah. And then it literally came up this week on a prophetic warning about saying that the man with no eyes was in reference to Elon. So
Oh.
it was
Huh.
very interesting what was said, because I had a very bad feeling about it. And he killed himself. He drowned himself in the bathtub after he poked his eyeballs out. And you could tell he was fully clothed. Like, he knew exactly what he was doing. He was doing that for a specific reason. Like, it felt like it was all planned on his part. And like, he was a bad man, and he was just going to go to sleep now and poke his eyeballs out because he did bad things. And that was the impression that I was getting when I was looking at him in the bathtub. I was like, and the cops were downstairs, waiting to come up and get his body or whatever. It was really interesting. So yeah, I'd never heard anybody mention or reference anything about, no eyes. And
Wow.
yeah, we were talking about it, and then boom, it came up like 24 hours later. They were talking about a prophetic and ironically, I had just had a session with Mike and Cindy like 2 days before that, and it was on their channel that he brought up that prophet, and I never discussed any of that with them at all. Dreams, none of that was coming up. So it was very interesting. So what do you all think about that?
Was that prophet the guy with no eyes? Was he alive about the same time, or did he die off the same time as you had your dream?
No, he just prophesied this recently, I think.
Oh.
Or just a few months ago. I'd never heard of this guy either. Mike and Evolutionary, I'd never heard of him either, but I was floored when I saw that, because, I've always been kind of keeping an eye on that. Like, what could that have meant, or what did that represent, and why were they showing me that, over and over and over again? And that was the first time I ever saw anything regarding that with prophecies or dreams. And that was the first thing that I'd ever seen. I thought that was very interesting.
It is very interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Very.
Yeah.
No eyes. Freaks you out.
Yeah.
That dream was multiple layers. So the eyes are basically having no insight, not seeing the future, not paying attention. But
that's what I felt like. He took his eyes because he couldn't see the truth. So he thought, these things are junk. I'd be better off if I ripped them right out of my head. So that was the what I was being like. That's what I felt. So you're spot on with that, Lucky.
But then the drowning themselves to the effort to do that. There's a lot of symbolism to that.
Yes.
But I mean, it's a lot. Of course, the house could have been a parallel life that was just showing, because we're always decisions are made by our parents and other people that influence us. And the house you live at could have a whole different design if a different architect came through and bought the land. So, that kind of thing. I mean, I've experienced my parallel selves, and they're wonderful individuals, every single one of them. But it's just one of those things when you know all the possibilities, then every decision you make, has less of an effort. It's like, okay, it's less to be stressed out about making a decision because, it doesn't matter what decision you make, it's going to happen either way. But dreams are messed up. Honestly, that's the problem. A lot of these dreams, our mind is trying to translate something to us that doesn't have all the words for it. And sometimes when we get on the other end, we're trying to translate what the subconscious is saying. And if we're not in tune with ourselves, we can have some pretty crazy dreams. Or worse, if we have, impact from our guides, they have a different language themselves. So that's another thing that could influence the dreams. And then, the whole meaning could be misconstrued easily.
Speaking of other lives, is it so maybe when I'm dreaming of just one of my other me's in another realm or a dimension?
I think that's possible.
Yeah, especially because you're up 24 hours a day, and there could be a different aspect of you could be awake working, and the dream you have might be them trying to experience life while you're trying to get some sleep and rest, and you might be influencing them. That kind of thing. It's easy. If you believe in multiple parallel worlds, it doesn't matter what happens. Where'd you go?
Yeah. Like what happened to Robert?
I can concur with that, with both of that, like having reoccurring dreams. I used to have a lot of that, reoccurring dreams, and about stuff that was like, there's no way that would happen, right? And then sure enough, it happens. So reoccurring, prophetic, and then I've had reoccurring dreams, all of it stopped. So to me, it felt like timelines had changed.
Oh, yeah.
So I was supposed to be on this timeline, but then it stopped. It changed. I'm on a different timeline now. So I've seen that as well. So there's some. Oh, Robert just
I'm back.
out.
Yep, he's back.
He'll be back. Yeah. So I think that like timelines, recurring dreams, like all of this. There's a lot more to it. And I think that
Care Bear just had a question. She's like, have any of you guys had dreams where you go to sleep, you have a dream, and then you wake up and you go back to sleep and you pick up on the dream right where you left off and continue? You do that, Nina? I've done that too.
I do.
Have you guys done that?
I do that a lot. I thought it was normal until someone explained to me that it's not normal.
Oh, really? I don't do it often, but I have done it before, and I remember it made me very angry because I wanted to change the dream. I was mad at the time. I was like, I don't like this dream. I'll do a new one. Went back to sleep, picked right up. I was like, oh, not having it. And I woke myself back up. Remember one time I got real angry.
I've had the other way around when the dream is really good and I don't want to wake up. I want to continue this
dream. I've done
that
too. Yeah, I've done that too. I'm like, why did I have to wake up? Oh, that was awesome. Yeah, I've had that too. Yeah.
Sometimes you have way more fun in your dreams than you do in real life, so.
Yeah.
With lucid dreaming, where I've had lucid dreaming, and I know I'm in a dream. And I talk to the other people in the dream saying, I'm dreaming, so you have to do what I say. And they say, no, we don't have to do that. I mean, no, this is my dream. And they're like, so what? So even in lucid dreaming, I don't have power over some of these entities, and I can't figure that one out ever. There was an individual who's arguing with me, so I manifested a cage and put it around them. It says, I did that to you. And they said, so what? And they manifested a chair and sat down. I'm like, but this cage, you can't get out of the cage. And they said, so what? I'm comfortable in this chair. It was like they manifested an easy chair and sat down and put their feet up and like, yep, I'm okay. So
you know what? I when you were telling me that, I keep hearing that's an aspect of your own self that you were toying with and trying to tell you to control your own self. I don't know. I was just seeing some kind of dynamic with that. That was interesting.
It's one of the worst things about lucid dreaming with me. And I'm like, I know I'm in a dream. And like, so what? like, but it's my dream, so you have to do what I say, you know. I'm like, no, I really don't. And I changed the whole scenery, and the being is just sitting there watching the whole thing, doing, you know, you can't, you no power over me. I'm still here. So yeah, even lucid dreaming, I don't have complete control. I haven't figured that one out yet, but I think that's just me. Maybe it's a confidence thing.
No, I wonder if it's like you're not supposed to be able to control or bind other people because it's consciousness. I mean, unless it's trying to harm you or something. But what if
No,
it's more about learning how to manifest or do exactly what you want to do without including anybody else? Can you do that? Like if you want to fly, can you fly? And like you said, you wanted to build a cage, boom, you built the cage. Did that spot on. So
no, no.
do you have
I can
success with that?
I can do anything. I mean, I jumped at a car and I had a flying car at one point. I did another thing where I could jump. I couldn't fly flat out. I had to be jumping with law and going and then landing. And that was the
Oh,
weird thing. I didn't have a complete flight. I could only jump like I don't know. I don't know what character that would be, but you know, there was always something. I
huh.
could manifest and change the environment, change the scenery. But again, that one being was adamant that I could not influence them whatsoever, that they were just here. Whether they would do the watch or just pester me. They mostly just kept saying things, you know, pestering me. So, but yeah, I changed everything. I changed from a desert scene to a forest scene to a river scene to a boat scene to a beach, and the thing was still there. It was just it could have been a man or a woman. That it was kind of like a maybe woman, maybe man. I don't know what it was, but it was just kind of a shortish hair. It was an individual who didn't represent anything specific. You know, their skin color was kind of mix of multiple races. They were never specific, and it was an individual who annoyed the heck out of me in the dream.
Hmm. Interesting.
Grandpa
Yeah.
Brian says, is seeing things in meditation dreaming?
Hmm.
If you're in meditation and you see things, is that lucid dreaming? Would that be because you're not sleeping?
It'd be more lucid, yeah, for sure, because you're definitely lucid while you're in meditation. But you know, we don't really know what dreaming actually is. So when I think about, when you're
They call
meditating, are you dreaming? Yeah, I think it's one level,
it
one level of
dreaming.
dreaming. Huh?
Yeah, it's like going into the zone, like you zone out. Like when we were in
Yeah.
school, we would just, all of a sudden go into a daydream, and we kind of
Daydream.
zone out, right? And we sort of
Yes.
into ourselves. We're meditating is what we're doing in
Yeah.
school. We're sitting there, we're meditating, we're
Yep.
going somewhere else
Yep.
completely. And so they call it daydreaming. So that's interesting. The word dream is right in there. So yeah, yeah, you can dream while you're awake for sure. Yeah.
That brings
Mhm.
up to the next question: is daydreams more important than night dreams?
You know what I think the difference between those two are? I think the night dreams are what you're processing through your subconscious. And then if you're in the daytime and you're meditating, even it could be at nighttime, but if you're meditating, you're not sleeping. So that's more of a conscious uh participation. Because like the subconscious, that's why everything is so crazy because the subconscious is really big and it's different. It doesn't work the same as your conscious mind. So I think that's the difference between the two is, the subconscious is more when you're dreaming at night when you sleep, and when you're meditating, it's more of a conscious participation where you have a little bit more control.
So,
Mhm.
see, more important. I'm kind of stuck on that because if I'm having a dinner, is the steak more important than the potatoes? I mean, honestly, I think each of them have their own aspects, and the most important thing you have is that you've got to remember them and write them down. The importance only works if you put something, record them so you can use them later. Because any dream, it's like dust; it'll pass away eventually, and you'll forget it, and it'll have no meaning. So the dream, daydream, night dream, meditation only mean anything if you have a record of it. Once you don't have a record of it, or like me who can remember everything and drive myself crazy where I'm at the store and remember, oh yeah, last night I had this dream about this and this and this. That drives me crazy sometimes. And then I get stuck. My wife's like, what are you doing? I'm like, I'm remembering my dream right now. I'm trying to finish it off. And she says,
Mhm.
You're in the middle of the store. Stop it.
Mm-hmm. Do you guys notice that dreams fade, but visions don't?
Hmm.
It depends
Yeah.
on the dream. So yeah, but visions themselves, have a rock. They kind of have an angle.
Yeah, they don't alter no matter how many years go by. I've seen that because the ones that I've had, they don't change. I mean, they're years and years and years ago, and they're still as vivid as I just was 10 minutes ago. But dreams, they get harder to grab, and then I forget about some of them. But like you said, when you write them down, it really helps, especially the important ones. I usually try to write those down, or the ones I think might be important. So, yeah, but I've noticed. What do you think that is? Why is that such a difference?
That's how you can tell the difference
I
between was
know.
it a dream
Yeah.
or was it an experience,
But
or
what
whatever.
does that? What
Yeah.
does that? I'm like,
You do. It's
how?
you.
Yeah,
Your
but
higher self.
how?
Your higher self says this is an important message. You cannot forget it.
Mhm.
Yeah,
It's not part of your brain.
and
It's
it
part of your
doesn't leave.
psychic. It
Mhm.
won't
Yeah.
leave because it's not
Yeah.
physically part of your brain, because we forget everything. We change.
Yeah.
Even my memories from 20, 30 years ago, if I
Yeah.
try to remember them, I remember them wrong. But the visions, they don't change because they're not part of my physical brain. They're part of my psychic, and it keeps
Yeah.
and goes, remember this smash in your head to remember it. Because usually
Oh
visions
my gosh, I think you just made a huge epiphany for me. I just heard in my consciousness. The visions are coming from your eternal self,
right.
while the dreams are coming from the subconscious and the construct.
Yes.
So
Mm.
that's what I was just being shown. And that makes a lot of sense to me, because one fades, like you said, just like our consciousness, it fades. Can't remember 20 years ago,
Yeah.
but when you get those visions, boy, they don't budge. They don't budge.
It's almost like you I can't remember what it's called now, but you remember it in a different place. You know what I mean? So like it's almost like in an office where you have the importance of things. Visions and experiences will be remembered in a more important file, if you will. Well, the dreams, they're kind of like in the, a different spot there that kind of just fades away. It's not important. You haven't stored it in a, I think it gets stored in matter of importance. You know what I mean? And you'll know the difference between just a dream and if it was like, because a lot of people ask me that, was it a dream or did this happen or whatever? And you can tell by whether or not the memories kind of fade right away, or is it something that 10 years later you're still, I'm still like, you know what I mean? Like, it wasn't just a dream. Something happened there. You know what I mean? So yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very different.
Yeah, because I know I've been having a lot of I don't know if they're lucid dreams. Yeah, I think so. That like this winter they were coming in pretty heavy and fast, where I just shut my eyes for a second or two, and for a minute I would literally, I'm out. I was tired or something. I don't know. I mean, if I was moving around, I was good, but the minute I would stop and sit to rest, close my eyes, and it seemed like days went by. I mean, and I was having the same dreams over and over and over and over and over. And, it was like and then when I woke up, I'd be like, I don't know where I was.
Mhm.
I'd have to reorient. Did you ever have to reorientate yourself?
Yeah.
Like every single time? And I'm getting very frustrated by it, because, it'd be like, it would start overtaking me. Like the sleep would overtake me, telling me to shut down and close my eyes so I could, go to wherever that spot was or that place and finish this out or experience it again. It was almost annoying, but
Well, I can tell you right away, Robert, you don't give your body enough rest. You don't sleep enough. Like you work
that's
way
probably
too
true.
much. So when you don't even have to try to go to sleep and you're out as soon as you sit down, because your body needs rest. And
Yeah.
you do the out of body thing probably as well, because your soul also is on a mission at night. We probably work a lot harder at night actually than we do during the day, some of us, or we're busier, you know what I mean? Because we do go out of body, we do have other things that we're doing, and you probably have, you know, an agenda, right, that you got to finish, just like we do here. And so it almost sounds to me like, yeah, your body and your soul is fighting. Who gets the time here? Who gets to do what, when? You know, like there's a power
Yeah.
struggle there. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I feel like sometimes. It's like a power
Yeah.
struggle.
So you
Yeah.
need to rest more is the recipe there, right? So
Yeah.
You know, I think that the reason we have to sleep is I think somehow it's reconnecting us to the other parts of our construct. And that's how you re-anchor. It's like I've heard some of the mystics talk about that. They talk about sleep as death. They're like every single day you die. You know, every single day you die. When you go to sleep, you leave this realm and you go to your home realm and you get information and you're pulling stuff into the construct for your experience here. And then when you go back in the morning, back to your body, if you can't get that thing running or get your consciousness back in it, it's not going to work. It's going to be done. So they're like, you die every single day. So, you know, that's an interesting concept because it just kind of validates that, you know, we're so much more than just, you know, what we see here. And I think that the REM sleep is part of the downloads that are connecting constructs of your own expression in multiple potential fractals existing all simultaneously. And somehow the sleep is what keeps everything cohesive.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Mhm.
probably true. That's
And I
probably
think that's why if you don't get good sleep, it kind of makes you get a little loopy and you start losing touch and base with reality because you're no longer in this reality. You're trying to go back into the other realities because you haven't been able to check in those other positions. So it starts to cause confusion in this waking reality. So I think that's why they say you have to have REM sleep or you'll go crazy. I think that keeps the containments between the realities while you're functioning in a reality.
Did you
Does
ever?
that make sense?
Oh, I definitely know that one. I hate to admit this, but when you're driving and you're overtired, and all of a sudden you're seeing things in the road and you're seeing weird stuff. And I remember slamming on the multiple times this has happened to me where I've slammed on the brakes. Oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! Oh, you know, oh, there's nothing there. Huh?
wow.
Crap. Okay. Yeah, there I go.
Okay, well,
Woke me up
that
a little
should
more.
be a real big warning that you need to get more sleep. Like
Yeah.
seriously, like
Yeah.
I wonder how many accidents have happened because of that. Probably a lot. I mean, never knew.
Millions.
They died, never knew why. You know, yeah.
Millions.
I remember hallucinating once when I was 16. I didn't go to sleep, and I was only awake, you know, that one night, and I was hallucinating. I was, you know, I didn't want to.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, yeah, it was weird. So. I mean, this is really important. Like, to
Yeah,
get
and
you.
that's what I was like. That was the thing. I'm like, man, what is this magic when we go to sleep and we like put ourselves back together? It's so fascinating to me. It's like, what do we really got going on in the sleep time? And what is it to dream? And, you know, why do we need to dream? And why do we need to go into REM sleep? Because, you know, when you're REM, you're doing rapid eye movement. Literally, it's like you're getting coded.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Uploading.
Yeah, they're uploading. Yeah, for real. That's what I see. I'm like, and if you don't get that, it's kind of like if you don't ever run system cleans and stuff on the computer and you don't do your upgrades, you can no longer communicate to the system anymore. It's kind of what I'm seeing. I'm like, wow, is that what the REM sleep is? It's getting those downloads and going into the higher construct and putting everything the way it's supposed to be so you function right here. And that's why people that they don't get their sleep, they get all cuckoo because you need to get your downloads to get back online with this reality and this avatar.
You know, I can see in the future us having devices on that tells, you know, whoever how much we're sleeping. I mean, they already have these things already. You can have sleeping, but pretty sure that's going to be mandatory, because what you just said there, Robert, I mean, a tired driver is just as dangerous as a drunk or under the influence. I mean, if not more. I mean, really, like, this has to stop. Like, we cannot have people driving around without sleeping. Like,
Well,
this is
and that's true. I mean, I've done that before. Like, I remember back in the day. I mean, I think it was Sunset Dreamer. I know him. Anyway, and we were driving, and he said I would be driving. This was 30 years ago. I hate to admit that, 30 years ago at least. And, I'd drive, and my body would be awake. My eyes were open. My hands are on the wheel, and I'm driving, but nobody's home.
Yeah.
He would be like, nobody's there.
You get to your destination, you don't remember how you got there. I mean, we've all done that because we kind of zone out sometimes. Going back to daydreaming, we do it while we're driving sometimes. Which isn't probably the smartest thing, but getting that sleep, like being that you have to prove that you have slept enough in order for you to step into that vehicle, I think that's something that's really been overlooked.
No, they already do that. All the driver tech now.
Okay.
I mean, you can't force them to sleep, because it's really hard to sleep in a moving vehicle anyways. So, it's difficult, but no, they do have a lot of things in place right now, especially for commercial drivers, to make sure that they're taking their times off the road, that they have to have transfers from one driver to another, because it's about sleeping, because it is that important. It really, really is.
So they already know about the commercial drivers, but what about all the everyday people, who are getting into that rush hour, and they haven't slept, for whatever reason, right? It's like that's just as bad as drinking, I would say, and whatever else. I mean, like I don't think they put enough importance on sleep, honestly.
No, I think that's why a lot of those truck drivers are always smoking, because they're doing something that keeps them awake,
And coffee, and loud music,
their go-to, but keep awake. But I mean,
Well,
and also something that came to my attention, like Cliff High was mentioning about the melatonin, and I used to do night shifts, so I got onto the melatonin and taking melatonin, just took a melatonin all the time, and then now I've gotten off it, and it turns out I don't need the melatonin anymore, and so I'm trying to do an experiment here to see how my dream time is going to change, because he's saying that the melatonin does something to your dream time. So I'm doing an experiment right now myself. So as somebody mentioned that they weren't dreaming, if you are on the melatonin, try and go off and see if that helps. But I mean, if you can't sleep at all, then go back on it, obviously. But and see if that helps.
I think too, he was mentioning the key to successful melatonin use is to only use it for a few days, and then try to let your brain reset on its own. And if it doesn't, then go back on it for a few more days, but then get off of it again, because that was the thing he was saying, that you become dependent on the melatonin, so your brain won't produce it anymore. And I was like, that's accurate. I know that's with all medications. So if you do something all the time, your body knows it doesn't need to do that, so it literally stops making it. It's like a muscle, you don't use it, you lose it. So whenever you're doing these natural products and different medications, you always want to do the medicine until you feel like you're kind of stable or out of an acute phase, and then you want to let the body try to regenerate on its own. And this is not medical device, this is complete cockapooey, so don't listen to anything I say, do your own research.
That was good that he said that, because I just been taking this melatonin, like I realized, wait a minute, I'm not on night shift anymore, and I have hormones balanced now. I don't need melatonin. I'm like, what the hell are you doing, girl? You get off of that, so
Mm-hmm. Yep. Oh yeah. Well, and before we get out of here tonight, any last words and on dreams? No, you're awful.
I think I like what all the famous ones have wrote when you think about dreams. Life is just a dream, albeit a very persistent one. Einstein.
It's a simulation.
It's a simulation.
Yeah.
And remember, everybody, we have Nina was so nice to make this little video of the new Milky Way Soul Tribe stuff. So look at this.
Nice.
We have merch over at Nina's store with my smiling mug on it. If you haven't seen the smiling mug, get my mug on your mug as soon as you possibly can. Ain't that cool? Gotta get one.
Yeah.
Shirt just like this. The shirts are back. Milky Way Soul Tribe shirts are back, everybody. You click on the link and get yourself a short shirt like that. Or a sweatshirt. Look at that. Of course, it's warming up, and I think she's got shorts in there for summer. There is shorts. You can even wear them in Arizona. So, shorts, mugs, things like that. Get them with my smiling face. There's other stuff with the Anakarana, and check that out. I just do love that. I tell you, I bought a bunch of those shirts. I gave them all guys at work. They're all walking around with me on there. Oh, you gotta love it.
And happy full moon to everybody. Happy full moon. Happy full moon, Brian. He said happy full moon to everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It is a full moon.
Yeah, and Joe, row, row, row your boat gently down the stream. Merrily, 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 merrily. Life is but a dream.
Yep. We had a great bunch of people in. Care Bear, Chloe, Pod, Joe, Grandpa Brian. He's heading to bed. Get some sleep. We don't want him driving with 4 hours of sleep. Crystal Shaman, Scotty Boy, Sunset Dreamer. Who else I see in here tonight? I gotta go back here ways. But anyway, thank you everybody. Secret Truth too. That's who it was. Anyway, if I missed anybody, Elderberry, Max Vision. Speaking of Max Vision, he's probably got his show going on now. So get over there and check out Max Vision remote view class. And it's like dreaming by staying awake. So use your brain and, have those visions while you're awake. It's a good way to train your brain, I should say. Mm-hmm. And don't forget tomorrow's show. Yes, here's tomorrow's show. Nina, we got the show coming up tomorrow, right?
Yeah, we're going to do episode 12 of the Anunnaki story. And, should be good. Can't wait to get back into it again.
That's right. Lucky, next week, another esoteric tea.
Yep, something. We'll be doing something.
All right, sounds good.
Always doing something.
Okay, good deal. Trina, it's nice to have you back on. It was such a surprise. I thought, you're never going to make it. And then here you are. And this was a great...
told you, season's brutal, but it's starting to wind down a little bit. So even though I had to work late today, but it's all good. It's getting better.
Getting better. It's good. It's good.
Getting better. Yeah.
With that, everyone, remember, go out and do something nice for someone else and do something nice for yourself. Because when it all boils down to it, you only get one life and you got to make the best of it by being the frequency you want to receive, everyone. Love y'all. Peace, everybody.
Have a good week.